Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And today we're going to talk about tea, particularly tea bags, and more particularly, again, what we're going to talk about is that there's actually plastic in tea bags, and a lot of people don't know that.
They don't. And there's a tea bag, and to all intents and purposes, 99.9% of people, because there's no publicity about it in papers or anything like that, so perhaps John Malone and the Christian and Jobs Action Party are the first to highlight this. This tea bag, which feels like paper, is actually plastic covered. In other words, it will not. It's something that you should never put in your compost heap or anything to do with gardening, because it won't degrade. And funny enough, you'd think it would. It will not degrade. It's hard to credit it. And I'd say if you asked anyone, they would swear blind that it's paper. It's not paper. Because if it was paper, it'd melt, and the tea leaves would go into the pot. So this is an actual fact is plastic, believe it or not, and as I say, it won't degrade. Very hard to understand that in this day and age. So that's something that people should be very much aware of. If they continue to use this, they'll have to put it into put it into some bin that's not to do with food.
So, what's your memories? Okay, so what you're basically saying is that in the tea bag, there's tiny little particles of plastic that keep the whole bag together to make it more.
Aye, that's right. This plastic, and you can check it. You can check it with any tea company you like, and they will confirm that that's the case. Or you can check it perhaps on the internet,
right.
And that information should be there if you're able to use the internet.
So the tea bags don't go into the brown bin; they actually go into the black bin because they can't be composted. Is
correct? Believe it or not, and a lot of people wouldn't realise that. Matter of fact, until recently, I didn't realise that. I would have sworn blind that it was paper.
Yeah.
But it's not, and so that's what it's like.
Okay.
Now, the proper tea to use is the like of this Barry's loose leaf gold blend.
That's the old-fashioned way of making the tea.
That's the way we made it for years. That's the way we made it before these things were invented. But they said nothing about this business of plastic.
Yeah.
Now, with me here, this tea makes a far better pot of tea. And if, as they used to have, and I remember rightly, because when I was young, I didn't like sometimes, perhaps the kettle wasn't boiling or whatever it was, or they did something, but sometimes you'd have tea leaves floating on top of the cup. I don't remember too many mugs in my time, but maybe, it's cups. And because in some places people, it could be half insulted if they didn't get it in a nice cup. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, that's the way it was.
It's standards.
Now you heard it, standards. So this is the way it was, and some ones might only put in, say, a spoon and a half of tea into the pot, and it wouldn't be strong enough. And a lot of people like a nice strong cup of tea because it would revive you. Believe it or not, a lot of them swore by the tea that it was a great reviver. And sometimes if a person wasn't feeling well or had a bit of an accident, the first thing to do is to get a nice pot of tea. Nothing else. Now, so this loose tea, Barry's Tea Loose Leaf Gold Blend.
And Barry's is an Irish company. They're based in Cork. Is that correct?
Based in Cork. And I recall when they become a bit better known, the independent stores was the one that put them on the map. I can tell you that. They used to have a sign on the door where a person could put in open or closed, and it was Barry's Tea stocked here. That's what put them on the map. The independent stores. Not get the credit for that now, are they? Because they're all gone. The multiples. Do you think they'd get into the multiples now? They would not. They wouldn't in a fit. But they're in the multiples now, and chances are they have to pay dearly for that privilege. But they're Cork, so as regards super value, they're Cork, so they'd be certainly supported by them. But that's Barry's loose tea. You couldn't ask for better tea to make a pot of tea like that, and to be stuck with your friends or your family, as the case might be, at a nice roaring fire in the winter time. And did you make the tea? I hope you put a few tea bags into it, you might be told. Or whoever made the tea, you might inquire. And how many how many spoonfuls of tea did you put into that teapot? And then you'd have to be told. Now, I hope you're telling me the truth, because I know leave it a chance to draw, and if that thing is like water, you can go back and do it again.
That's it. And now the teapot you have in front of you there has an infuser in the middle, so you put the tea leaves into the middle of it. The teapot now I'm talking about, Joe, not the tea bag. The teapot.
Yeah.
So you open that, you put your tea leaves into the centre of it. I've done it already, right? And I've tried the difference between, say, a tea bag and actual loose tea. The loose tea is actually, it's quite potent, it's quite strong.
Exactly. You see, because it's
has a nice flavour.
The flavour comes into it. As a matter of fact, people would know the difference years ago. Now I don't think they know the difference, because I see people not even drinking tea, they're drinking hot water or something.
Yeah.
Whatever's wrong with them. Maybe there's something.
But the actual tea bag kind of created...
Maybe there's climate change rather than people that will not drink a proper cup. That makes a proper cup of tea, pot of tea.
Yeah.
And you know, there's nothing, and even if you're on your own, for goodness sake, make yourself a pot of tea with loose tea, and stop polluting the atmosphere with tea bags, that's plastic. And maybe, you know yourself, drinking something that has plastic in it might be that beneficial for your health.
Well, I'm going to come back to that in a second then, about my aunt in particular, okay? But before we do that, what I want to say is about the tea bags, right? When the tea bag was introduced, it created a different type of tea drinker. So when the teapot was there, if somebody was going to make a pot of tea, there'd be a lot of people sitting around it, like to sit around the hearth of a fire.
Correct.
And they'd be topping up each other's...
By the way, the fire was called the heart of the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they'd be topping up each other's tea, and it was kind of a social occasion, like the fireplace.
Yes.
But now, then what happened was the tea bag came along, and people make their own individual little cup of tea, and they take it to their bedroom, or they go on their computer, or whatever they're doing. So the whole, the gathering is gone.
Correct.
From the
and
tea
that's
making.
why you see unfortunate people carrying tea or whatever they've got in some of these
Costa and coffee
Costa and
places.
all these places, and they're marching around. There's not going to be no conviviality there, sharing stories and swapping yarns, because that's how we learned. That's how I learned from the older folk. And they'd be puffing a pipe, and as a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say there are a call, older women smoking what they call a clay pipe, a kind of a crooked lad. And they were offering, then other ones was taking snuff. So they were all very sociable.
Yeah.
And there was, whoever was talking was listened to, because that's how you learned all the sort of, the history of what was going on in the particular neighbourhood where you happen to grow up.
Yeah.
And this is why people have this yearning to go back to where they were from. It's a natural inclination. I have it myself. I suffer from that too. It doesn't matter what age you are. You want to go back where you knew the whole rigmarole, and we have these happy memories. Because I have very happy memories of gatherings of that calibre.
My memories in County Kerry as a child was that people would make tea, and it would actually boil forever. The steam would overboil, okay?
Yeah.
But I have a problem with the plastic tea bag, and the problem is, and a lot of people continue to make
It's
tea.
isolated.
No, the problem is that people continue to make tea down the country in the same way. They let it boil and boil and boil for ages and ages, right? But what they're actually boiling with the tea bag is they're boiling plastic.
They don't realise that. I'd say 99% of people in this country, and the Christian Jobs Acting Party now is highlighting this.
Yeah.
I presume somebody is going to copy it and make out that they were the first.
Yeah.
I think we're the first
Yeah,
to
possibly,
highlight
yeah.
the fact that this is plastic.
Yeah.
And putting that in plastic in your mouth.
See, it's one.
I was
It's
going to say you're a gob, but that's probably a bit blunt.
yeah.
Your mouth.
Let's keep it respectable.
Keep it respectable. And it doesn't matter if you're a man, then you're having it, and if you're a woman and you're made up to the nines and you want to sip. Well, if you have a tea bag in that, the bloody tea bag might interfere with your lipstick.
Sure, it might.
So suddenly it pops in, and you can't be just emptying the tea bag out, because if you do, maybe it'd be like water.
Yes, it's one thing.
Leave it in it.
It's one thing to drink cold water out of plastic, but when you start boiling water and boiling tiny
So
particles
what
of plastic,
particles is coming out of the plastic?
yes, it's
You
just
don't know, do you?
you don't. I mean, there could be.
They're talking about cows and all the other old nonsense that come out, but let's talk about what we're drinking ourselves out of these plastic things that we know nothing about. Tea bags made of plastic. Who would have thought such a thing?
So
It's
not
used to
only
make
is
now.
there water.
I've lived a good long time, but I never was too keen in it for some reason or other. And I just never kind of liked it. And the tea tastes much better from the loose tea.
It does. It's really potent, as I say, and people should try it.
There's a lovely thing to have in the house. Barry's tea, loose leaf, gold blend.
Yeah.
Anybody coming into the house, say nothing about it. Just make the tea. Will you have a cup of? Yes, I will. No, say, will you have a cup of tea? Never mind yapping about mugs. Have a cup, china cup.
Yeah.
You're a visitor. Sit down there near the fire, warm yourself, and give them a nice pot of tea made with the loose tea. They'll be commenting, that's a lovely cup of tea, they'll say. And they won't know what it is. And you won't start sort of giving them an education, saying, by the way, this is you'd have to keep your mouth shut there, because you want to get a bit of news. They've come in and they want to get a bit of news out of you. That's the way it was.
That's it.
It created family life. It created around the turf fire when I was young, and now perhaps the coal fire. But I've tremendous memories of it with aunts and uncles and all the rest of it, and conversations and them talking, and a couple of older uncles and smoking smoking the pipe. A lovely, pleasant scene, if you can visualise it. What the business of having no fireplace now is this crowd of dopes that's in the EU coming out.
You're talking about they're getting rid of the chimneys.
Now you're talking. How can you come together against? Where is people going to sit? They can't be sitting in the middle of the bloody floor like what are these Chinese or whatever it was, yoga people sitting on their hunkers around like I don't know what. They want to sit around the fire, for goodness sake, and have a nice cup of tea and a chat.
Now you're talking. Now you're hurling. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.